morning, you guys. Well, it's another episode that I'm recording out here for you on the same day, and today I wanted to talk to you about the cup of death. Now, many of you, as you have become experienced gardeners, you walk around the garden and you see pests, especially on things like your zucchini and your squash. You see squash bugs. There are other big beetles where you have to eradicate it immediately, but it can be very, very difficult to catch them. So some of you may already know about the cup of death, but I want to explain to you in a little bit more detail that the cup of death is something that you can easily carry around with you and eradicate bugs on the spot without having to worry about spraying chemicals all over the place just to grab one bug. Okay, so in this 90+ degree heat, as I have told you, we are battling squash bugs hot and heavy. Now, this is the cup of death, and you can see it's already full from today. So and this is just one of the cup of death. We now keep them scattered all over the garden so we can grab things immediately. Now, I ripped off some leaves from one of my zucchini plants. You can see that it was covered with eggs, and the squash bugs were not just present, but they were copulating. I mean, who wants to really copulate in this heat? I'm not really certain, not me. Anyway, that's a whole other video, you guys. This is a great container because it has a nice wide mouth. Now, what we do is we fill it up with water and we add soap to it. And when it's freshly soaped and it has bubbles in there, the bubbles work really well because as soon as the bug drops in the container, it hits the soap and it just stays in there. But we've noticed that there's something about just like the soapy solution being in there, even if the bubbles aren't active, they go into the water, they hit the water, they're done. So again, I like this. You can see how wide the mouth is based on the size of my hand. And we just carry this around with us and we just drop stuff in. Now, I see another area of squash bugs, but it's going to be hard for me to actually hunt for the bugs, hold the cup, and get them into the cup all while I'm filming. So as I've been working out here, you can see from the ground level, I was spraying the eggplant in the video that I just recorded. I can link that for you below. I saw from the ground a cluster of squash bugs. So if you're seeing these types of eggs on your zucchini leaves, you can prune the whole entire leaf, or you can just rip a part off, which is what I'm going to do right now. I'm just going to rip that off and then I'll show you what I did. Well, I'll tell you, the squash bugs this year have been relentless, and I'm finding them on my cucumbers. Now, I don't know if any of you, now these bugs, I am not a bug person. I don't like bugs. I don't like touching anything that looks like an egg. So I've just ripped that off. Now this is hard to do, and I just give it a squish. And I'm just gonna drop that whole thing into the cup of death. Now it's not really going to kill the eggs, so the eggs are meant to live through water and everything. But what we'll do is we'll filter the water out of this, and then just take the remaining bugs and the leaves with the bugs on them, and we'll just drop them into a bag that we can put into the trash. Now, it seems like the squash bugs this year are going after my cucumbers. I'm fine. This is where all the copulation is happening, mainly on my cucumber plants. Copulation, fornication, I don't know what you want to call it. But it's a nasty business out here in this heat, you guys. Gosh, the things that survive in the garden. So it's so important that you carry around your cup of death, because look, I have these beautiful zucchinis growing under here, and if it's inevitable. There are vine borers. They're here. There's no doubt about it. They're going to get in there, and I'm going to show you what happens with the vine borers. The vine borer male is bright orange. You can't miss that bad boy. He's going to get in here onto the stalk of the zucchini or the squash, and you can see he's already been at it. Those little scratchy marks, they go in and they lay an egg in there, which becomes a grub, and then you'll just start to see your plant dying off. When that happens and you're finding eggs all over your leaves, you have a vine borer or squash bug problem, probably both. Wow, it is brutally hot. So I just did a video for you guys where I was showing you about spinosad. Now you could probably spray this on your zucchini leaves, but this stuff, it ain't cheap. And you'd have to spray it very often on those big giant leaves. So it's important with zucchini and squash leaves, big leaves like that in particular, that you work with picking those things off by hand. and trying to eradicate the problem, like I said, without spraying stuff all over the place. Now, we have cups of death all over the garden, and we just dump them out almost daily. Now, John came out last night to discover that the Harlequin beetles have arrived. And, oh, some shade. Yay. Oh, it's another high fashion day. I digress. I look lovely. I should be a fashion influencer, you guys. What do you think? Garden fashion. So last night, it was crazy. John had worked, I don't know, I think he was on 11 hours in the office. He called and said he was on his way home. I told him that I discovered squash bug eggs all over the zucchini, and we chatted the whole way while he drove home. And keeping in mind, yesterday, John goes in the office 2 days a week. Yesterday was one of his days back in the office, and he was actually late for work. Don't tell anybody who might be watching from the job. He was lost in the garden. He came out here to do one thing and ended up going on a tour. He was picking at bugs. He was deadheading flowers, and I just watched him. So he was just a few minutes late, like 5 minutes late for work. But then talk about dedication and, you know, wanting to do the best for the garden. While we were talking on the phone and I was telling him about the squash bug eggs, he said, I'll be right in, and I'm going to just drop what I have, and I'm going to come right out, and I'm going to grab those eggs. And he did. He like stripped out of his work clothes in the garage, appeared at the back door. I was outside with the birds, and he was ready in his dirty garden clothes to come get the squash bug eggs. So on his adventure to get the squash bug eggs, he spent over an hour out here. Didn't eat, didn't go to the men's room, didn't do anything. He put his stuff down, came right to work. Dedicated Farmer John. That's the kind of man you want, ladies. So he came back here and realized when the Harlequin bugs have arrived, and he was out here for like an hour pulling the bugs. Now I'm going to show you one of the cups of death, and I'm going to show you all the Harlequin bugs that are in here, and this is just part of it. When these bugs arrive, talk about copulating, fornicating, and all that nastiness they're breeding. One or two will appear. You'll see them mating, then before you know it, there's like 100, and then the next day there's like 1,000, and they will decimate your brassicas in an afternoon. So here we're going to turn you around. We're going to show you what the cup of death looks like, full of these horrible invasive Harlequin beetles. All right, you see them down there, guys? Hopefully this will help you to identify them when they appear. Sort of square. They have almost like a leopard spot pattern on them. There we go. They have a hard shell. It seems like nothing wants to eat them. The wild birds don't go near them. Nothing does. So you got to hand pick these guys, because I think their shell is so thick that any spraying anything doesn't really remedy the problem. But the cup is full of Harlequin beetles. So as I said, they're dead in there now. We'll empty this tonight so we can get back at it. But that's another idea of why the cup of death is just so important. And you know, in spite of all these beetles that we have present and all these squash bugs, I want you to look at something. It is almost the middle of July. Look, I have beautiful kale that is really barely nibbled at. There are a few problems, but there's nothing wrong with this kale. We think that the reason, and the Harlequin beetles are going to the seed pods of the lettuce, and they're going to the seed pods of this kale that was here. They were infested in here. They also love mustard, and that's another thing that seed pod is from. Mizuna. So if you have Mizuna and you don't know what to do with it, you can grow it. It is a good trap crop for beetles that are coming at this time of the year. So don't give up on that Mizuna, because I know we all have 500 packs of it. But anyway, when you look at the that kale, and the fact that I still have these beautiful Brussels sprouts that are growing, very, very minimal damage. I think the damage that we do have is from the cabbage loopers. But mid-July, and I have baby Brussels sprouts, this says a lot about being able to pluck things off. Look at this beautiful scarlet kale, you guys. It's July. So walking around and hand managing some of these pests is very, very important. Wow, everything is changing so much. Well, we started the year off with the beautiful anemone flowers, which are dying back now. I've been pruning them as I go. The liatris is starting to take over and open up. Really, really, this is a very, very pretty little flower. And you can see some of the cosmos I planted is growing, and the zinnias are doing well. But one of the things with the zinnias is the Japanese beetle and the June bugs really love to get in there and eat the leaves. So I don't see any on here right now, but you can see back there in the distance, it's another cup of death. So this cup of death is living here, so I can grab these guys immediately. This is kind of disgusting. I'm not gonna lie to you guys, this is gross. So, but this is what we're dealing with. Now we can walk around and we can be hypocrites and we can just spray everything indiscriminately and kill everything. Or we can just do our best. These things don't bite, they don't have teeth, they're not dinosaurs. You just grab them, or you hold the cup close to the plant and you just kind of grab the leaf and you flip it over and it goes into the water and it's done. It's a done deal. Well, talk about attention deficit. I was making that video. I ended up getting sidetracked because I took the cup of death and got something else. Then more birds got into the berry barn, and then I had to go in and, oh, I tell you these stories all the time where I walk around in circles and I totally lose track. But here's a little tip I wanted to give you. Try and find anything that's really recyclable that you're going to throw away anyway for the cup of death. The best thing to use is a wide mouth cup if you can find an old cup or a plastic container. I like the peanut containers from Wegmans, and Costco used to have cashew cups and different nut cups that where they just have a big wide mouth. But you know, it can be anything that you can use. Another thing that that comes in handy for is if you should get leaf-footed bugs and anything that infests a whole entire area of a plant, and it's very difficult to like go in and pick them off like I was talking about doing. I don't have a demonstration to give you right now, but keep an open mind. If you have a disposable cup with a wide enough mouth, you can just lift the cup up over the entire thing, like let's say it's a tomato or a branch or a pepper or something like that, and you'll capture everything. This was how we got control of the leaf-footed bugs back in the tomato garden several summers ago. So now every year we keep the cups of death out. So look for something around the house, you guys, or something in the recycling can, and hopefully you can come up with something. Again, it's just water and a little bit of dish soap, and you create a foam. And even after the foam dies down, it still leaves a soapy slick inside, and that works as a barrier. They can't get out of the cup. So anyway, you guys, thanks for watching this video. I hope you try to utilize the cup of death, and I'll see you all in the next video.